Hi, brother.
Hey!
Mundot, what
What's up, brother?
you been doing?
Bro, unreal, huh?
Lockdown.
Lockdown.
What have you been doing at the house?
Um, so we're in our fourth week at the moment of lockdown, or going in. Yeah, this is the start of the fourth week. Um, Obviously, no games, not allowed to the facility, and then obviously the new rules and regulations being self-contained and the only time you are to leave your house is for necessary essentials to the grocery store and back. Other than that, yeah, for us, that trip was only, not even once a week. We've just been staying at home and trying to make use of the time, really.
I know, obviously, you got Harvey there playing with the dog. Said you were kicking the footy. You just have like a decent yard. You can go and do that. Obviously, wifey's doing workouts we see online.
Yeah, just trying to, yeah, stay upbeat and stay positive and find stuff to do and kind of lets us be creative that way. But yeah, it's me, Alyssa, and Harvey. Harvey's got a little space out the backyard for him to stretch out a bit, but he is wondering why he hasn't been let outside the fence so that he can really stretch it out. But he's been going hard in the backyard still, so the last couple of days he's been on load management, restricted minutes, chasing the footy, and that. He had to pump his brakes a little bit.
Load management.
Yeah.
And do you have like a hoop or like do you have anything where you can get any shots up at the house or like you're just trying to dribble a ball in the garage or have the Spurs given you anything to like try and shit, I don't know, try and keep your skills up to some kind of level just in case it all blows over kind of quick?
Yeah, so we basically started our, the hiatus, I guess, and the way I took it as a, just as a regular off season for me. So the first 2 weeks of the hiatus, I treated as my off season, where I was doing light activity, and then the start of the third week is when I got back into doing a lot more, mobility, range of motion, stretching, light work, light cardio, and a lot of core and glute activation. But nothing with a basketball. The Spurs have been great and been able to deliver a bunch of equipment that we could obviously use. But in terms of basketball, no, we were actually shooting Harvey's little green spiky toy into the pool cleaning basket yesterday. So that's how, yeah.
The Spurs haven't given, obviously no one knows how long it's going to last, but they haven't been like, all right, you have 3 months or it's 6 weeks and go and do nothing, or it's just kind of all up in the air.
Yeah, it's all up in the air. Just as you can imagine, everyone is, especially over here. I think we're about 2 weeks um, behind what Australia's going through, at least, I think. So, yeah, everything's up in the air, and we're just kind of waiting to see, day by day, week by week kind of thing on what's going on. So it's tough. You can imagine for guys, young guys who obviously haven't been, around the league or guys that haven't really been around adversity at all, knowing how to handle situations like this. Obviously, no one's been through this before, but at least guys that have been through some sort of adversity would know how to somewhat handle this situation. So, you can imagine it's tough for those guys.
Obviously, the guys finishing college careers as well, like looking to enter the draft and be able to play summer league to show that they can get picked up by teams and all that stuff's going to affect all that kind of generation coming through as well.
Yeah, the uncertainty is probably what's the another killer, especially to professional athletes, especially these guys that are coming from college or going into the draft. As you said, there's just a grey area of uncertainty that no one really knows what to do. So it can be hard for those guys to have a goal to be able to reach in the near future. So it's interesting times for a lot of people, and you just gotta find a way. You got to find a way to be able to see the positives in all of this and latch onto those and hold on tight.
I see you've always been quite musical, but taken to the guitar and playing the old Guess a Song online. I think a lot of people are loving that. And I know like Kyle on our team, a few other guys, Stephen Adams, Giannis have all kind of got on board and having a bit of fun with that.
Yeah, it's been fun, mate. Obviously, times like these, I've really been able to dive into those hobbies and interests that I've always had. And the guitar, as you know, has always been, a part of our lifestyle, I guess. Whenever we're just sitting around on the couch or whatever, just grab the guitar for a quick jam session. I guess the only difference now is that it's like, oh, well, why don't we, film a couple of seconds of it and share it with everyone to try and spread the good vibes to everyone else, which seem to be making a real, big positive impact on other people, especially those going through tough times. So that was the only reason, I guess, to put it out there in the world, is just try and share that positive energy and share the good light and have fun with it. So a lot of people been enjoying it, which is good, because I'm not going to start singing, because that's when everyone will just tune out, I reckon.
I reckon they'll tune in. It probably is a good time for everyone to start trying something like, it's probably not easy to go and get a guitar, but learning new skills or new stuff online it's a good time, with obviously sitting at home and doing nothing for half your day. There's a lot of time to go and try some new stuff.
Been waiting for you to jump in there, mate. When are you going to jump in on a song?
My musical skills go as far as playing the drums to maybe one beat, and that's about it.
I've heard you sing in the shower multiple times.
Look,
Room dog.
A couple of times I can hit a high note, but for the most part, I'll keep that to my roommates only.
That's when the water's super cold.
Yeah, and it drowns out all the noise. I want to take you back to the AIS. 16 years ago, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think
old, bro.
I think when you came in, so we went on like a tour overseas.
Yeah.
Scotty Pendlebury was there. Obviously now premiership player with Collingwood, captain. He came with us, and then we come back to Aussie, and he decided to go to football. And actually, this is a question I had. Do you think, or how close do you think you might have been to trying football as a career over basketball back when you were younger?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I think at that age, it's not really a defining moment, I don't think. As obviously you saw with Scotty, and a lot of people that, start off with one sport and then make the change over. So, never did I think that basketball was totally gone. But I did feel, there was a part of me that felt like, I might have missed an opportunity in basketball at a certain age. So let's just see what is out there in footy. And there was a couple of, really good options at that age, at least for me, being in year 10 at Marist at the time. And I guess in those, few weeks of things developing is when, that opportunity arose again for me to take up a scholarship at the AIS. And, it was pretty easy for me at that point to redirect the vision from footy back to basketball. And, I guess throw all the eggs into one basket and let's go chase this basketball dream or whatever it may be. So it was definitely an interesting period of time. Obviously the AIS in Canberra, me going to high school at Marist on the other side of Canberra. So the transition wasn't all that hard, but I remember those days of, rocking up for year 11, the first couple of days of year 11, and then being yanked out of the induction day of year 11. It's college now. First time I've been able to wear a blue shirt for year 11 in Marist, and saying, "Nah, you got to go." And never did I think at that time that was the last time I was going to see, my schoolmates. And then I was gone and over to the AIS on the north side of town. And yeah.
How'd you find that coming in? We're in the same boat. We're all left home. Like you said, you were in Canberra already, so it was easy for you to just go across town, but we all kind of left home at a young age. Had lived out of home away from mum and dad, and then we're all like 11, 12 of us in like a one big dorm kind of thing hanging out. It was, I mean, for me, leaving Tassie was kind of hard, but I guess having everyone there doing the same thing made it a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone's, that right age where everyone makes a transition of moving out of home and, learning how to be independent in a sense. I think the AIS bubble that you are in at that time is a good transition into the real world, I think. You still have to be independent in being able to look after yourself. And then learn the ins and outs of what it's like to be a professional athlete without still, being the full way there. So the AIS in that sense, I think for all of us that went through there was definitely put us on the right track in becoming professional athletes. But as you said, moving away from home for a lot of people around the country was definitely hard. And I think you would think that it would be easier for me. But in saying that, how busy we were throughout a normal weekday or weekends. It wasn't like I was going home, at all, really. Mum and dad would obviously get to come to a lot of games, but for the most part, we were in the AIS and we were at school and that was basically it. So
Well, it was probably harder for you you obviously had all your mates there. Like everyone obviously leaves, if we were still at home, we'd probably be going to parties on weekends and hanging out and whatever. And so for you, they were probably 20, 30 minutes away, but you still probably couldn't go and see them and hang out with them like you're saying. So that's probably why it was harder. Even though you were there, the move was probably easier, but the whole lifestyle thing was probably harder because they were right there, but you still couldn't go and see them because you're doing 3 days and
exactly.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You are, and you were there for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
The most stayed for 2. Why do you think you stayed for 3?
I was that year where it was me and Andrew Ogilvy who were in the under-19 World Championship team, and it was a decision whether or not we do the 2 years and then go to college and then come back for the World Championships, or we stay another year to be able to prepare with, those guys who we've been, who have just coming in, so we can stay together as one team and pretty much be together throughout the whole year to prepare for the under-19 World Championships, which were in Serbia that year. So it was a pretty easy decision to make. Like, let's just stick it out one more year, get ready for the under-19 Worlds, and then we can go to college after that. So pretty easy decision. And it didn't leave me too far behind going to college when I eventually did. So easy decision. That AIS group for my 3rd year ended up being pretty much the same team that we took over to play for Australia Emus.
Did you weigh up staying in Australia, like playing NBL, or you always wanted to go to college? Because around that time, like Bogues had been, obviously, and a few kind of bit of the AIS group of 12, probably a third used to go to college, or like I feel like it wasn't until kind of after your kind of year when most guys were going the college route. Was NBL kind of an option then, or you always wanted to go to college?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think I can say that I always wanted to go to college because, growing up, that wasn't in my, I didn't watch it growing up, but as you go to the AIS and you see, okay, this is the end goal that I want to accomplish. What's the best way to get there? And I guess you get to that fork in the road when you come to the end of the AIS. So, what's the best way to get to my end dream of playing into the NBL? And got to that fork in the road. And yeah, we definitely, wrote down and went through the due diligence, I guess, pros and cons of both. It was a lot harder for me than probably what people can imagine. One, being an only child, and only having mum and dad, although I have a big family, to, leaving my family, leaving my culture, and a part of me that is a part of my daily life, was always going to be tough, knowing that no one else of my background and culture was going to be with me on the other side of the world. So that was tough. So yeah, no doubt there was a lot of tears, wondering if this was going to work. And obviously, pretty much told by mum and dad to man up and get on the horse and go and chase your dreams, pretty much, and that they were always going to be there to support from afar and make sure that the transition was as easy as they could make it from being so far away, and we did it.
Uncle Benny gave you a kick up the ass, told you to get out of.
Yeah. One time looked at me and like, bro, what are you crying for?
So then you go to college. Why do you think so many Aussies have been to St Mary's? Good place, comfort of having other Aussies there. You were just mates with each other and like you just kind of dragged a few along, or?
So Adam Capon was the first Australian to go to St Mary's. I think it was 2000, the year he went there for 2 years, 2001, 2002. I remember he done 2 years, and then I think he might have overlapped with Daniel Kickett or maybe just after him or something. So they were the first two Aussies there. And we actually done a tour with the AIS team. I think when we went to Seattle and Portland. Yeah. And then we done another tour to LA and San Francisco and went to visit. Daniel Kickett was still there. So I got to see St. Mary's firsthand, which was quite fortunate. Obviously got to know the coaches really well, some other players that were there. And then obviously they were making their trips out to the AIS. So for me, it was someone and a place that I was very familiar, or more familiar with than any other place in America. No question about it. So when you weighed up the other options, before you even talked about other people, other Australians being there, it was always going to be, I think, a no-brainer for me. And I think I had already made up my mind or my decision before I actually knew that Benny Allen was going to transfer, Colin Hughes was going to transfer, and Lucas Walker as well. Yeah. Or that they done, I think, the year before and sat out a year. So yeah, it's all these all these things kind of just lined up for me to have a good transition into a place that I was worried about whether or not it would work or not. And I walked in as a freshman to having 3 other Aussies on my team. As well as Luella Tomlinson on the girls' team. So there was definitely, all those guys were at the AIS as well. So we obviously knew each other and got along really well and helped each other along, I think, at the AIS.
Looking from afar, it was like an Aussie takeover. Was it cool to see Aussie flags, anthem played, like Aussie chants while you guys were there? Like obviously you guys made that happen. Like you said, Capes and Kicks before. Obviously, Kicks is a lot older, but and then you guys coming through, like it was pretty cool. I'm assuming it would have been pretty cool for you guys being a part of that, knowing that they're so behind the Aussie group that are there. Yeah,
I think we're about 45 minutes or so, a little bit less maybe from San Francisco, where there's a little bit of an Australian base with obviously people that work in the city there. So there was, it was close enough where not only us on campus at St. Mary's, but other Australians were around us to kind of help with our Australian fix that we might have been missing, whether it was home cooked meals or those flags things. So when other friends, other Australians would come to the games, they would hold flags in the crowd, and then I guess the best thing about it, to be honest, that community of Moraga and the surrounding areas in the East Bay just welcomed us all in as their own, and the Australian culture at the same time, and really fed off that. I think made us feel at home, made us feel comfortable, and everyone just kind of came together over our Australian culture and how many of us were there. So it definitely helped us through.
That's where you first met Alyssa?
Yeah, met Alyssa. Sorry, I knocked the table. Harvey's under my feet here. Yeah. Met Harvey. Met Alyssa my following year, sophomore year, second year. So I was a freshman, went to the Beijing Olympics, came back to school a little bit later, obviously because of the Olympics, and Alyssa was a freshman there when we met.
And then obviously some big games. I remember seeing some big games on TV. Obviously we're entering the draft, but you obviously injured yourself. That would have been pretty hard, knowing you were trying to enter the draft, being injured, like working through all that. How was all that kind of process?
Yeah, I guess this is where, these hurdles and adversities now that I up until this point I'd never faced before. When you're talking about injuries and potential risk on your career, you just never know how it's going to go. And I guess this with a combo of moving on the other side of the world really built my character and what it needed to take to be able to reach that next goal. So had my first major injury, which was my broken hand. It was in the middle of the season of my sophomore year. I remember Alyssa taking me to surgery and picking me up from surgery and making sure I was okay as my hand was in a cast. Got back from that healthy, played a couple of games in the NIT, obviously didn't make the tournament that year, and then preparing for the draft, got drafted. Right after the draft, when I got drafted, broke my foot. So 2009 wasn't a year to remember for a lot of good reasons, but it was definitely a growing year, and what I needed to learn about myself first and foremost, I think, to be able to overcome these little hurdles. But I think it just built me for what was to come.
Did you have a team that you like, a team growing up that you were like, shit, I'd love if they drafted me, or obviously you just want to get picked by anyone, but was there a team growing up that you're like, man, that'd be cool to go to them?
Not really, mate. As we grew up and watching, NBA, although it's like a dream and it's a goal, I don't think it's as specific as you might have thought back then. Yeah, you're just like, oh, I want to play in the NBA. Who cares for what team? Just get there. So no, not really. I remember being in the draft and being, oh yeah, Warriors might be cool to play for because they're down the road from St. Mary's, and obviously Alyssa's family's there as well, so that one made sense. But you're walking into a industry that's got a lot of money around it, and you learn that it becomes a business, and things happen. And so when I was drafted to the Portland Trailblazers, I was pumped that I was drafted. Never did I imagine that would even happen. But we were in Madison Square Garden the night that my name got called, and walked up on the stage and got my hat, shook Adam Silver's hand, and walked off the stage. And yeah.
Did you have any expectations of where you might have gone in the draft? Like, did you think you were going to go higher, lower? Was that like a completely nervous situation, just sitting there, like just waiting for your name to be called?
For sure, nervous situation. It's one of those things that you can be told, this, that, and the other, but you never really know until, you hear your name. So going back and forth as numbers are being called out, and he was going to go there. He was going to go there. We knew DeMar because me and him worked out together prior to the draft that Toronto really wanted him, so we knew he was going to go there. And you just see these numbers going, and first round finishes and second round comes, and all of a sudden people are walking out of Madison Square Garden. In come the cleaners sweeping up the popcorn. And we're about at the start of beginning of 50, and then 55th pick, my name gets yelled at, and I don't think anyone else was in the place except for the cleaners. But you just kind of, you're on a ride really. You just taking it all in and just seeing what it's all about. So I guess expectations, I guess there wasn't really any. You're just going to be happy with whatever.
And obviously Portland, the lockout came in there for that 1 year. Obviously, I know China was not the best time basketball-wise for yourself. And then the NBL, obviously, how did you find coming to the NBL for that short patch of a bunch of games?
Yeah, look, another one of those interesting times throughout my career that, really could have went a ton of different ways, I think. Just like now with a hiatus, I mean, I've been in the league a long time now to be, go through that lockout and now this. So it was in an interesting time of my year, going into my third year. What do you weigh up to do during this time? And for me at that time was to try and go somewhere where I can play. Breaking my foot as a rookie, playing a lot more, my second year. So then that decision was made, like, okay, if this lockout happens, I think I need to go somewhere where I can continue to play rather than just sit out. Other guys during that time probably had the a fortunate position to just take that time as a break.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, all right, let's go play. So we made up the decision to go back home, which I thought was cool at the time, to be able to play in front of family and friends who haven't got the opportunity to see me play before. Try and get some good weather back in Australia that I haven't been there for now for a couple of years for summer.
You should have come to Gold Coast, but anyway.
Well, it wasn't recruited by you, mate. Just an interesting time, and I think that a lot of professional athletes go through times where you just learn from them, whether they're good or bad, and you kind of save them in the bank about how to overcome these things. And everything that I've been through throughout my career, I never take anything for granted or regret anything, because they all, in some way, shape or form, help you grow into, someone that you eventually become. So it was a tough time during that lockout period, but at the same time, it was a blessing, because that season I ended up here in San Antonio, which is now over 8 years ago, which has just absolutely flown by. But over 8 years ago, and into my 9th season here with the Spurs.
So obviously Aussie stuff, which we'll get to eventually, with Brett Brown, it was a part of the reason getting you to San Antonio?
Yeah, mate, for sure. Although I don't know if he admits it or not, but that was another part in the decision of needing to play, because we had the London Olympics that year. And for me, not to play in, a lead up to a massive Olympics is probably not ideal, or wasn't ideal. So yeah, I know Brownie was sitting worried, talking to him quite a bit over that time, over that lockout period, on a point guard not even playing. So I don't know what he would say, but I think that he had a little bit to do with getting me to San Antonio. But I don't think he knew, nor did anyone really knew that 8 years later, 9 seasons down the track, I was still going to be here.
I mean, the Spurs, probably one of the most successful, what makes the Spurs so good? Obviously this year, it hasn't been probably the best start, but year on year, no matter who leaves, no matter who comes in, with that group that they had with Pop and obviously the big three or whatever, Timmy, Manu and Parker, what makes the club so good? Is it Pop and the office staff? Is it just the people they recruit?
Yeah, well, I think the first point is the winning culture. Obviously, with the amount of championships that's been won here, and that only happens because of certain number of people at the top that are able to make the most out of players, I think. And you got to start with Pop and Ussie Buford, who've been here since the beginning, and the people that they've been able to put around to be able to grow this family franchise is what it seems like. And I think family is probably a good word to put it. And you've been over here and a lot of other people have been over here, but to be able to say that word with confidence in an industry that is got a lot of money involved in it is quite unique to see. But that's exactly what this club is all about. And then obviously next you gotta start with Timmy and his ability to be able to be selfless. He's just been inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is unbelievable. It was never in doubt, but obviously still unbelievable achievement. But his ability to be selfless and be a caring teammate and want the best for his teammates because he knew that it would make the team stronger is something that's really incredible. And then you get obviously him, learning from David Robinson as well and other guys. And then you get Tony in, and then you get Manu in, and those three guys together, different parts of the on-court stuff and the off-court stuff really just was a good mix of a lot of different things. And then you create a locker room and a team and an organization where it's really diverse. It's really trustworthy, where you're growing together as a team off the court as well as the management side of things. I can imagine, and you just feed off all of those things, and the loyalty too. I think is another big key word when you're talking about what makes the Spurs is the loyalty that management has, as well as the players have as well. And Tim, Tony, and Manu and David Robinson are the guys that you obviously say, and then you can throw a bunch of other guys into that same mix as well. Sean Elliott. So I think it's a special place to be. I think anyone that has the opportunity to be able to be a Spur comes here and understands that this is a special, unique place, and it's probably different from other places, but everyone's gets looked after here really well from an all-round standpoint, especially from family, which is very important, obviously, to guys. But you can go on and on, but feel really blessed and fortunate to be in this position. We all three of us do, or two and a half of us do.
And obviously Pop's a massive part of that whole organisation. Obviously we see his interviews and he's pretty stern and stuff, but I mean, talk about culture and how Timmy was. Like, you've told me a bunch of times you guys go out to dinner, and if you're there, Pop will pay for it, and same kind of thing right here. He takes care of the boys.
Yeah, look, it's just all those little things that, people probably wouldn't think about, but just trying to, do the best for the team and stuff that would bring the boys together off the court first. Let's try and build a camaraderie. Let's try and build a family. Let's try and build a place where guys can really get along, so that when we do step out onto the court, it becomes second nature that we'll all trust each other in certain situations. And I think for me, you obviously really saw that in the first, 2 years that I made it to the finals with the Spurs, the year that we lost, but also the year that we won, and how we went about business. And you saw that, throughout the years after that too, when we made it deep playoff runs and whatnot. It's all about that culture and the values of what it means to be a Spur. And when you grow up in this organization and in this environment, it becomes ingrained in yourself. Timmy's, obviously the Manus, the Tonys, even Matt Bonners, you know, who had played elsewhere as well, and myself. I think, you know, you just find how you appreciate all those little stuff.
Well, it must be cool for you, obviously being a younger guy starting out, but now that these older guys are Timmy, that these guys have moved on to now be like almost one of those guys that now the younger guys look up to for such a special organisation. That must feel pretty cool to now be one of the leaders of one of the most professional clubs, I guess, in the world.
Yeah, I think looking back on how, you know, what my roles have been here in San Antonio and how they're constantly growing, and you know, that's how I've tried to, you know, attack each situation is just to continue to grow and continue to find ways to be able to develop, whether that's on or off the court. And now I'm in a position, or have been in a position now for the last couple of years, where, you know, I am that leader for the team, and especially for the young guys that are coming through that, you know, need someone to look to on, you know, again, that thing of what it means to be a San Antonio Spur, and the values that make up, you know, the silver and black, which I think is really important. So our support staff, our coaches, you know, our medical staff obviously do a great job. But, you know, I think where I've gotten to a place, and I've had it for obviously a number of years being here now, but playing with that passion that, you know, that you obviously play for, playing, you know, for the green and gold and playing for the Olympics. But that same passion that I have playing for Australia, I have playing for the Spurs, and I think I'll always have that. But, you know, it's about the next group of young guys that are coming through and making sure they understand all those same values, so that they can, you know, open up and reach their potential within this environment, which is so crucial.
How good was it after losing the year before to come back and win? You know, almost like you guys probably should have won the year before, but to come back the next year and win that championship, how good was that? And then to see, I guess, all the international players with their flags and stuff after, how good was that?
Yeah, it was really good, mate. I think it made that the championship win that much more satisfying, knowing that we went through, you know, such a, you know, I don't know what the right word is, but it was a tough feeling to feel, especially in the sporting world of you know, a sporting tragedy, I guess you could say, and in having something in the, you know, slip through your fingers and on to the next one kind of thing. But what we went through that entire following year and how we started out, it was like everyone had a clear focus of what we needed to accomplish and how we were to get to that point. So, you know, a lot of people won't remember the entire year, but there were some bumps and some hurdles throughout that season where, you know, we would beat all the teams that we were supposed to beat, but we couldn't beat anyone good, you know, until we got to the end of the season and into the finals, where we finally seemed like we hit our strides. But, oh, mate, winning an NBA championship is always going to be hard to be able to describe to someone without being there firsthand. But it was a great feeling.
You had a few things take off in your time with Spurs. Obviously, the three goggles was one, but then the towel wave. Whose idea was it to come up with the actual towel?
Yeah, we had a few different people come up with a way, and it was never something that was meant to happen. It was just something that someone saw. Obviously, the celebrations and how supportive, you know, you are as a teammate, and trying to make an impact and be involved in some way. And then someone, you know, once said that these different towel waves look like they're, you know, moves or something, you should name them. And then, you know, so it was cool. I mean, again, one of those little things that kind of brings you know, the fans and the players closer together in something that they can feel like they have something in common, which is cool. But to see everyone in the stands with those little Go Spurs Go towels and really getting amongst it was pretty cool.
And then obviously the bobblehead of recent times as well. Could you have ever imagined growing up you'd have your own bobblehead playing for an NBA team?
Well, definitely not a bobblehead. definitely not a bobblehead on Indigenous night in the NBA. I mean, they were two pretty massive things that I would never imagine would happen. That just absolutely, in terms of accomplishments, and how I was able to, and how the Spurs were able to, welcome the idea and pull it off was I was very appreciative of that. As so was, the people that were involved that we were acknowledging that night, the traditional people here of San Antonio. So again, when you start to think about or start to hear about how a lot of things work throughout our organization here in San Antonio and the community, and how it really is that family vibe. You start to put all the pieces together.
So Tyson Demos used to play, obviously, in the NBL for a bunch of years. He's obviously now heavily involved with the Illawarra Hawks. And you guys talking about the Indigenous round that the NBL now do, like that's got to be something pretty special that you guys have obviously worked for a while to now get going. And where do you see, or where do you hope that thing can kind of go moving forward?
Yeah, Tyson's been a close friend ever since growing up, and he's become a lot more aware of his Aboriginality, I guess, and his culture through his mum's side, and now that he has kids, being able to also teach them as well. So I guess going through his basketball career and transitioning out of that, finding a niche that he's really excited about has been basketball within Indigenous communities around Australia, and the Illawarra Hawks have been that platform for him to be able to do all those things. And he's done a really good job, even to the point of even being part of an Aboriginal dance group.
I was about to get to that.
Yeah, sorry, mate, I jumped the gun. But look, I think it's awesome. He's really passionate about the connection of basketball for Indigenous young kids in different communities. And what he's done with the NBL and Indigenous Night has been a lot of work. But, he's gotten to do it a couple of years now. But I think the goal is to have this ongoing inaugural Indigenous game or round throughout the whole year. And I think when you look at all the other sports throughout Australia, the NRL, the AFL, even what Rugby Australia have done at the World Cup, for instance, just being able to acknowledge this, Australian culture is important. So hopefully they can continue this no matter what happens in the future for the...
And obviously a pathway for the young kids coming through as well. Obviously with the Australian Indigenous basketball program they got set up.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing here is being able to have a clear pathway for young kids that are coming up to have a goal of, I want to make that pathway and get to the goal. I think that's the most important thing. And right now within basketball, it's probably not as clear as it is. Well, it's not as clear as it is in AFL and in NRL. So hopefully we can get to that level. But people like Tyson Demos are the guys that are in that position to be able to help get that done. So, good on him.
We'll see if we can touch on the heartstrings a little bit. So I'm going to set the scene and I want your reaction.
Heartstrings.
So Tyson, obviously, like you said, he's starting to learn more about his Aboriginal background or whatever. And so we're in Hawaii for your wedding. I think it was the night before the wedding, and there was a band playing and everyone had eaten whatever, all sitting on the grass. And I can't remember who got up to kind of speak about all the background of the dances and the culture and whatnot. And then the kind of beat starts playing, and then there's a group of people, or group of dancers that come running from, I guess, behind where we were sitting. And then you see Tyson for the first time, who you've never seen dance before, right? Never seen him dance. Had no idea he was going to be out there. Yeah. What kind of how was that? I know you broke down or whatever. You couldn't talk. You were a bit of a mess, but
onions. Someone was
seeing him do that.
Yeah, I think when I look at what I want to what I really want to accomplish throughout this basketball career, or what does this mean all at the end of the day, right? And you wanted to tug on heartstrings, so here we go, bro. But I think it really puts in perspective of, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And at the end of the day, does it really have anything to do with basketball, with sports even? And I think, I've really taken upon myself to be this role model for other Indigenous people, whether they're young kids or whether they're the same age or even older, to be able to really latch on to their culture and use that as motivation to be able to achieve whatever they want to achieve, whether it is sports or anything else. But for Indigenous people to really use their culture as fuel to ignite that, I think is where it's got to start. And I know growing up with Tyson that he, it wasn't as strong as it is now. So to get to a point where, he said to me how inspiring it is for him to watch me, how I go about my stuff and keep my culture close and use that, how that has played an impact on him and growing up, especially now that he has kids. So it was very, it was very heart touching. It was very powerful for me to see him in full, dress up, paint, the whole deal, and be out there with the, dancers who've been dancing their whole lifetime and him not even missing a beat. It was a good surprise that I had no idea that was going to happen. But like I said, if this whole thing makes any sense at the end of the day, it's because I'm able to make an impact and inspire, young Indigenous Australians to be able to do stuff like that, which I think is where it all starts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've done a lot of that. I remember we went to Uluru and we, the NBA Players Association and Boomers, whatever, you guys helped give them that court up there. A bunch of other stuff. Obviously, of recent times during the All-Star break, the bushfire stuff. You took your team of people and organised. Like, how hard was it, or to fly back during that All-Star break and put that whole plan in place? And what did you guys actually do while you were down there?
Yeah, I think the first point is to say, what I see and what I envision doesn't only relate to Indigenous people. I think it's all Australians, and for everyone to understand, the effort of trying to bring people together and understand that this is everyone's culture. This is all Australians' culture that we should all enjoy at the same time. So, I'm not only involved heavily in the Indigenous communities, but other communities as well. So, throughout the wildfires time and being on the other side of the world and seeing all that go down, it was very tough for me being on the other side of the world, just feeling helpless and not being able to do anything to help, people that are in need. Not only friends and family, but anyone. So it was a hard time during those months. And then it got to a time where, we were in a game actually, and obviously I knew how bad everything was. But I remember at halftime of one of our games, we came back into the locker room and sat down in my locker and, grabbed my coffee. And as I grabbed my coffee to start sipping on, my phone lit up and I got a text. It just happened to be that timing where I saw a text from a close friend who was in Canberra at the time. And she was saying that, things are really bad and we really need help. Can you do something? And it was pretty much after that time where, me and the missus kind of got together to try and come up with some sort of idea that we could do to help, and started with obviously social media platforms and channels to try and just get the awareness out there that although it might have been gone from the mainstream media, that things were still burning and burning badly, but understanding that it was the long-term relief and recovery that Australians were going to go through, the whole country. But For me, you know, I just felt like, you know, a bit of my Australian identity was going up in flames as I watched back home and to see the devastation that was happening. So, and it kept going until All-Star break, and it was like a week out of All-Star break or something like that. And, you know, me and Alyssa looked at each other and I was like, right, we got to get on the plane and get back down there and see what we can do. So we done it. It was hard. You know, wouldn't recommend doing that to anyone during an NBA season. But like I said, it was something that, you know, we needed to go back and do. And we helped out in communities, country towns, south coast of New South Wales. We helped out in small businesses to wildlife sanctuaries, and even at the end, you know, land management with fire practitioners, you know, Aboriginal fire practitioners that understand and have the knowledge to be able to look after the land really well. So those were the key areas that we kind of honed into on that trip. But it was a little bit tiring, so got back here and made sure that I was in good shape to finish the rest of the season up until now.
Yeah. Do you think there's a greater honour than playing for your country? Putting on the green and gold?
Do I think there's a greater honour in playing for Australia in the green and gold? It's a good question. I think when you talk about the pinnacle of sports, you know, it's definitely the pinnacle, playing for the green and gold and doing it at World Championships. I think it depends on what sport. For you to answer that question, Olympics is going to be, you know, the highest for a lot of different sports. I don't think so. I think it's the highest. And the reason why I think it's the highest is because I think it's that platform. It's the biggest, you know, playing for the green and gold at an Olympic Games. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. It's a platform where you're able to try and accomplish your own goals at the same time as, you know, inspiring everyone else back home that has eyes on you. You know, that doesn't have the same effect, you know, from playing in the NBA. Yeah, sometime when you make the finals and whatever, but an Olympic Games in your country's green and gold, nah, bro, I think that's the highest. And yeah, it gives me goosebumps whenever I talk about playing for green and gold, because I know how much that means to not only me, but a lot of people back home.
Obviously, the Olympics were meant to be this year and they've been postponed for next year. Who knows what happens the rest of this year, but how do you think that's going to impact the team moving forward? Because obviously there was a lot of momentum from, you know, Worlds, and everything was, you know, all the pieces were starting to fall into place. And obviously there's a bit of a hurdle, but just kind of have to reset a little bit next year.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And you know me, always going to look at the positives to be able to look at the steps moving forward. But one of those positives is that, yeah, you know, we've up until this point have never had two major championships in back-to-back years. So for us to have the idea of, yeah, now we got a whole another year in between that we can get some rest, get healthy, because going from a world championships to the regular season back to an Olympic Games, that was going to be a lot to deal with on the body, especially. So, you know, guys that are injured, have niggly injuries, can get back healthy. I think that's the type of mindset that we as a team got to look forward to. But, you know, it's good that the Olympics has a date now, as of a few days ago, setting a date, so that everyone can kind of readjust and replan on how they can put themselves in the best possible position. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of momentum lost. You know, we're going to put a hell of a team together that with guys that have a hell of a lot of experience in the NBA and the NBL, overseas in Europe. So for us to be able to come together and hit the ground running is going to be awesome.
Is Uncle Nelly, Matty Nielsen, one of your favourite Aussie teammates you've ever had?
Yeah, mate. I think a few of us can probably say that, and for many different reasons. You know, he will get embarrassed of me saying this, but you know, he was that captain that you know, we had that you know, was really underrated in that sense of being able to really run a team and especially as young guys, and we were as young guys, back then. But I have a lot of respect and admiration for Uncle Nelly, playing with him and seeing how he goes about business. And, that's just my point of view. He's done a hell of a lot for my career growing up, both on and off the court. So I owe him a lot, but I really respect him as a player, as a family man, and the captain that he was with the Boomers.
We're going to jump into some lighthearted questions in about 2 seconds, but
too deep, bro. Too deep.
You told me you did some work with Steve Nash. Obviously, you sent me some drills. How good was that to work with one of the best point guards, most skilled point guards from the NBA?
Yeah, awesome, bro. Again, as a player, growing up and trying to develop, these are ways that you just got to try and find ways to keep on growing and keep on developing. So we've worked together now, a couple of times, and for us to be able to find ways of me to be able to continue to grow my game in different ways as the game changes as well, which I think is important. So that's been an enormous help for me and my understanding of, one, how the body works, how to look after the body, and how you relate that to basketball specifics. So learned a lot from him, mate. He was someone that, I always wish that I got the opportunity to do so. And now that I have, I'm just making the most of it. And it's become a daily, routine of the stuff that I've implemented into my own stuff that I go about my business. So very grateful for that, and going to keep that going for as long as I can.
Favorite AFL team?
Huh?
I know these answers, but I'm just for the homies.
Yeah, these are the light ones.
These are the light ones. We'll have some fun now.
Yeah, about time, bro.
Listen, you jokes a little bit. Favorite AFL team?
Favorite AFL team, Adelaide Crows. Always has, always will be.
Do you have a favorite player there, or just like the team?
Favorite player, favorite all-time Crow, Andrew McLeod, easy.
Yeah.
Tony Modra.
Yeah. And obviously Broncos fan.
Got Harvey's hair in my mouth, bro. Sorry. Broncos, bro. NRL. That's probably been my number one team in all sports in Australia. That and Queensland in state of origin.
How good is it to be in the crowd in Queensland at Suncorp for, like, say, an Origin game 1 when they start running out and everyone's going crazy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you talk about growing up and dreaming about stuff, that's the stuff that I dreamed of. Never did I think NBA finals and that kind of stuff, but running out into a state of origin, in that jersey was what I dreamed of. So to be there in the stands and hear the roar at Suncorp is unreal. And you and me have been to a couple now, but absolutely love those moments. So I live for that. When the season's over, it's like, let's get back for a Broncos game in state of origin.
Yeah. What, give us a bit of a rundown on the hairdo. So you've had the baldy, you've had like a little bit of a fade or like a bit of a flat top, you've had the dreads, you've had the dreads.
What are you laughing for, bro?
I'm just, how did they all kind of just felt it at one point? You've had a big...
I haven't had as different ones like you have over the years.
My hair's been the same. My hair's been the same for like 15 years. It's just a little bit less, but I don't have the luxury to chop and change like you, David. Obviously you have, so you've been all over the place. Do you just kind of feel it at certain moments, or?
Yeah, all by feel. 1 year there, I decided to shave it all off, and I'm looking back and I'm like, what was I thinking then? That was the worst idea to do it. But now I guess I'm just, now this quarantine has got me looking pretty rough. But just all feel.
Who's got better hair now, you or Timmy?
Now, well, I just seen him on FaceTime, and he's looking pretty rough. It's not as long as mine, but he's looking rough.
You like fishing in Hawaii, so you got your house in Hawaii off season. You go back there, whatever. You like to go and fish, and bit of a hobby in the spare time, just to kind of cruise and deep sea dive or whatever?
Yeah. That's given me the opportunity and Alyssa to be able to, do all the things that I've done growing up in the Torres Strait. Anything from spearfishing to the types of food that we cook, seafood, just the lifestyle and the culture piece around it as well. And obviously that, that Oceania culture that Hawaii has in relation to the Melanesian culture of the Torres Strait is very powerful. So I feel a lot of connection there, especially with the people and the family and friends that we've met over there. But again, it's given me that opportunity to really live that lifestyle that I did growing up. And, that's, at the end of the day, that's who I am. I'm just an island boy that likes to do, spearfishing and walk around barefoot and eat everything with rice.
Your coffee crew's starting to expand. Started what, 2 or 3 people? Now you got like 7, 8 in there.
Yeah. OG coffee crew was me, Manu, Ginobili, Boris Diaw, and Tiago Splitter.
How many coffees would Boris have during a game? You have one at halftime. Little coffee machine right there.
Well, I don't know how many he would have, but it was the times that he would have them that would make it feel like he's, every 5 minutes. But he would have one before the game, and for some reason, every time Pop would go to talk, it was like he would time it perfectly to make the coffee machine rattle, and you're looking at him like. But it's coffee games, and one of those things that brings people together as well.
Mad Monday is pretty big for sporting teams here. You try to take it to the Spurs. I seen one picture. It wasn't a bad effort, but how'd they take to that? How long did the day last?
Bro, you letting all my secrets out over here.
Hey, it's online. It's all online. There's nothing people can't see. Give the people what they want.
Yeah. Look, Mad Mondays, as everyone knows, is a massive part of Australian sporting culture, not only at the professional level, but all the way down to, your regular local comps on Friday nights or weekends or whatever it is. So, again, when you think about Australian culture and how am I able to implement that to where I am, wherever I am, it's just one of those things. So tried my best to do it in the first but it took a good few years for me to really get it going. And now we have got it going. And if we were to have one this year, which we'll never know, but we'll see soon enough, but it'll be number 6. Number 6, Mad Mondays, which is, that's pretty cool to think of, but yeah.
You know if any other teams do it? NBA teams?
Not that I know of. Again, it may be a culture thing, I don't know, but people from all around the country as well, overseas. So, it almost seems like a few days after the season's done, everyone kind of, disperses their own ways. Mm-hmm. But for us to take the time to really get together and be on a level together that, you can really, for a lack of a better term, but let your hair down and relax and not have to look over your shoulder and really, hang out in an environment that, you can kind of let loose and do it in a safe environment too, which I think is important. But, everyone, you always want to be the last team standing, but if you don't, well then, you can have that to look forward to.
What memories come to mind when I say MCG lights?
You and leaving the lights on too bright at night when we're trying to go to sleep.
And I've got to finish on this one. Fucking Bad Boys. Is it the best movie or sequel of movies you watched?
Yeah, mate. Them and the Fast and Furious, bro. I don't know, man. I know we'll get a lot of mixed reviews from this or a lot of haters, but I think when you jump on board something, you become latched on and biased in many different ways. But these are all movies that we both love, Bro, we used to get on the plane, every plane trip, and this is for everyone that's watching out there, but me and him used to be the people that would swap seats with random people just to make sure we're sitting next to each other on these big international flights, sit next to each other, pull up these, Fast and Furious, Bad Boys movies, and click play at the exact same time on different screens so that we could sit with our own headphones and watch the movie at the same time and then laugh and elbow each other, be like... So I think they're the things that I really enjoy about it, because I think back to those times with you and our own little jokes that we have within it.
This is Ralph.
G'day, Ralph.
Well, that were all my questions. That's not bad. A little hour catch up. You got many people on the Vegemite in the back there?
You know what? I haven't, because it just stays here. Like, I've never had an opportunity to I should just take it to the facility. I have got a couple of people on it, but...
You know what I don't get, right, is, so every time an Aussie tries to, an importer, an American comes in, and they're like, oh, you need to try Vegemite. They give it to them in on a spoon. The
worst way.
No one ever eats it like that.
Yeah. I feel like Vegemite is so far down the line now in not a great way that, people already have a bad, idea of Vegemite. So it's like, all right, I'll just save it for me.
I just don't get why they serve it like that. I've never, ever eaten it off a spoon like that. It's a little bit on toast and that's it.
Ever.
And
people just ask for it. Like, nah, just give me a little taste on the spoon. No, bro. You got to put it on the bread with butter.
Butter, bread.
Yeah, that's...
wild.
Yeah.
But that's all I had for you, man. Appreciate you giving up a bit of your time. I know you're pretty busy.
This is Harvey.
Harvey.
Yeah, no worries, brother. Hey, thanks for the catch up. This has been good. You been safe back there?
We've been safe. We've been working out, home workouts, trying to keep busy, do as much as we can in the small surroundings. But yeah, despite what's going on, hopefully it passes sooner rather than later. But
make sure if you dress up, you dress up properly, bro. You don't just put on the top half and then leave the bottom half to Uggs and tights and stuff.
You want the full Daniel Hester suit, do you?
Yeah. What is that? Halfway done. Come on, man.
Yeah, the best of both worlds, comfort and style.
Can I ask what you done with all the healthy food that you did cut up and...
We ate it.
Huh?
We ate it.
You threw it on top of the pizza?
That was good work.
It was good work. There was a good plot twist for me because I just watched it as I was waking up, still in a blur, and I was like, yeah, well.
We're working on a few more. We'll get a few more to come.
Yeah, keep them rolling. Improve the lighting in the background though, a bit dark.
Yeah, look, it's all new production, so we're fine tuning, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
You got legit cameras, or you just rolling iPhone style?
Nah, straight lappy.
Oh, lappy? Yeah. Bro, you need microphones, everything.
No. We can't go anywhere to buy anything.
True.
But nah, appreciate you, brother.
No worries, brother. Thanks for the chat. Good catching up.
You guys stay safe over there.
Yeah, you too, man. All the best with the podcast, and let the Creekies know we said hello. Listeners here, got a shuckers up, and Albie's here too.
Good looking. All right, brother. See you, bros.